What defines an American patriot? Who are these people? Where do they come from? When we span the course of American history, we can all point to individuals we would define as American patriots. The list would be a familiar one. From the Founding Fathers in the early years, through those who defined the decades of trials and challenges we faced as a developing nation and a bastion of freedom and liberty in the world, and throughout the 20th century, the American century, where American heroes and patriots sacrificed in every corner of the world to fight oppression, restore hope, and plant the seeds of freedom. And even today, when in the early years of this next American century, we find ourselves facing even more dangerous enemies to the principles we hold dear. Never has it been more important that we as a nation foster and encourage true patriots to live out their calling on a world stage, not for mere personal glory, but to protect an idea, an experiment, a dream, which has grown from humble roots to become the most dynamic country the world has ever seen. An American statesman once observed, "True patriotism is not a short, frenzied outburst of emotion, but the steady and tranquil dedication of a lifetime." It is this spirit of true patriotism that is celebrated by the National Defense University Foundation through its highest honor, the American Patriot Award. If the definition of patriotism is the steady dedication of a lifetime, there can be no better example than the life and career of the Honorable John H. Glenn, Jr. Few have ever devoted over 50 years of extraordinary service to their country. Fewer still have a legacy of service which has spanned arenas that have demanded not only intellectual depth and prowess, but also a life and death level of physical, emotional, and mental courage. Fewer still have done it all with the integrity and grace of John Glenn. From his first ride in a barnstormer's plane with his father, 8-year-old John Glenn wanted to fly. So at age 19, he jumped at the chance to earn a pilot's license through the Civilian Pilot Training Program. Little did he know that within 6 months, the Japanese would attack Pearl Harbor and thrust America into World War II. Glenn responded immediately. He left his studies at Muskingum College in New Concord, Ohio, to join the Allied war effort. After enlisting in the Navy as an aviation cadet and then transferring to the Marine Corps, he earned his wings as a second lieutenant. Shortly thereafter, his squadron was assigned to the Pacific Theater, where Glenn flew 59 combat missions, earning 2 Distinguished Flying Crosses and 10 Air Medals. After returning to the United States, John Glenn's exceptional flying skills were put to use testing the latest developments in military aircraft, until again he answered the call of a nation at war and received orders for combat duty in Korea. While in Korea, Major Glenn flew 69 rigorous combat missions. He was severely hit by enemy aircraft fire during 2 of those missions, and was awarded 2 more Distinguished Flying Crosses and 8 additional air medals for his tremendous courage under fire. In the late spring of 1953, while still in Korea, Major Glenn was admitted to the Air Force Pilot Exchange Program and flew 27 more combat missions with the Air Force's 25th Fighter Interceptor Squadron. After shooting down 3 enemy MiG fighters, he earned the name the MiG-Mad Marine. By the time his service as a military pilot was complete, John Glenn earned a total of 6 Distinguished Flying Crosses and 19 air medals. After the Korean conflict, Glenn attended the Test Pilot School and joined the Navy Air Test Center staff of expert flyers, where Glenn used his skills in the development of advanced new aircraft programs. He conceived the idea of Project Bullet, a mission to break the transcontinental speed record, traveling faster than a bullet fired from a .45 caliber pistol. On July 16, 1957, John Glenn took off in his F-8U Crusader, crossed the country in 3 hours and 21 minutes, and set the new record, averaging 723 miles per hour in the first coast-to-coast supersonic flight. Less than 3 months after his historic record-setting flight across America, another record was broken a half a world away, a record that would dramatically change the life and career of Major John Glenn. In 1957, the Cold War between the Soviet Union and the free democracies of the West was becoming more evident to all. In October of that year, the Soviet Union launched the world's first space satellite, and a new theater in the growing Cold War suddenly emerged. The race to space and technological superiority became a vital strategic priority for America and for the free world. In the ensuing few years, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration was formed, with the main objective of placing an American into space. Lieutenant Colonel John Glenn and his fellow test pilots were destined to become the central players in this dangerous and promising new arena of exploring the reaches of space. In November of 1961, NASA announced that John Glenn would pilot the first American attempt at orbital spaceflight. On February 20th the following year, after 10 postponements, 33 years after that first barnstorming flight with his father, John Glenn electrified the whole nation as he successfully piloted the Friendship 7 spacecraft, circling the Earth 3 times at over 25,000 miles an hour and splashing down without incident in the Atlantic Ocean. With the backdrop of the Cold War, an unrelenting arms race, the Berlin Wall, and the Cuban Missile Crisis, the success of that Friendship 7 flight generated a groundswell of national pride and hope for the future. And the humble and gracious war hero from New Concord, Ohio, was embraced throughout the nation and around the world. Shortly thereafter, John Glenn returned to his work at NASA with a sincere desire to return to space on future missions. But unknown to him at the time, his requests were always denied because President Kennedy judged him too valuable a national asset to risk on another mission. Glenn reluctantly accepted that his exploration of space was over. Little did he know then that 36 years later, destiny would call again.